Hi! Happy July! It is July now, but today I'm going to be doing a reading wrap-up of what I read in June. I haven't done a wrap-up video and I don't even know how long. I've kind of lost track. I was in a bit of a reading slump and also was just so busy with college. I just didn't really have the energy to be making book wrap-up videos, and also I wasn't reading a ton, but this month has been such an incredible month of reading, so I just wanted to share what I read because I have so much to say and I just wanted to share it with all of you guys, so I hope you enjoy. So, this month I read 8 books, which is like the highest I think I've read in a month this year, and this next month I think is going to be even more, but I just really loved all the books I read this month and I want to share them with you guys. And also I got a Kindle in May, so that has definitely like influenced my reading, and I've read different things and it's allowed me to like read things I wouldn't typically buy, which was really cool. So the first book I read this month is These Infinite Threads by Tahereh Mafi. She's the author of the Shadow Me series and I really enjoyed that, and I wanted to read her other books because I wanted to see how her writing has evolved since that series. This is a fantasy series that is influenced by Persian culture, I believe, and it is really good. I really loved it. It's definitely a YA, like, younger audience novel or book series, and I, like, think there's some, like, fairy tale aspects to it, and I really enjoyed it. It's really simple, really easy to read. The intrigue is kind of cool because something like kind of crazy happens at the end of the first book and it's like picks right back up in the second book, which I really enjoy. I'm really excited to see how the series progresses. It's really cool to see different cultures represented in fantasy and kind of be the main story in a fantasy. In this book, the main character is a house servant, and she also makes dresses on the side, and she has a very interesting past and she gets tied up in some very interesting things. It's a very interesting concept. It's obviously like kind of some parts have been done before in fantasy, but I really loved this book and I really enjoyed it, and I'm excited to see how the series continues. Next we have my favorite book of the year maybe, A Gentleman in Moscow by Amor Towles. I have no idea if I said that right, so I'm sorry. I read this, like, took me like 2 weeks to read this book. I was absolutely savoring it. I read it on my Kindle and then got a physical copy because I need to go through and annotate it. This book is about a man who is a writer, and he was a aristocrat. He was like I guess he's kind of like considered a prince. I'm pretty sure he's like referred to as a prince. And then Russia goes through some political stuff. I'm sorry, I don't fully like understand everything, like all of the political upheaval, but he is staying at this hotel and it's like one of his favorite hotels, and then he's sentenced to imprisonment within this hotel, and he lives the rest of his life at this hotel in a closet-like space, and it just shows his life and what happens to him at this hotel, all of the connections he makes, all of the joy he has, and all of like the rituals he does every day that never get old, and just the decadency of his life within this prison in a way is just so beautiful, and it's just so captivating and so well written, and I can't praise this book enough. I loved it so much. Like, thinking about it, just it was like probably one of the best books I've ever read. It is definitely like my top 3-5 books, which I think is so crazy because 2 of my top favorite books are not fantasy books, which I think is really interesting. I just absolutely love this. I can't praise this enough. If you've read this, please let me know what you think. I just really admired like just his values and how he held to them, and just the slowness of his life and how much he savored every moment, and the writing is just so beautiful. I love things that just like romanticize every moment, and I just really loved this. And there's just so much depth to it within the political things and just so much commentary, and just I can't say enough about this book. I loved it so much, so please, if you have the chance, go read it. Next we have The Friday Night Club, another favorite of mine. I got this at a bookstore and I saw the cover and I was like, oh my god, a painting book. I'm constantly in search of books about artists, so this was just a real exciting treat. This is called The Friday Night Club. It is a historical fiction book written by 3 authors. It is about Hilma af Klint, which is the original abstract artist. She's from Sweden, and this book is a historical fiction book following her journey as an artist with the Day Femme, which is a group that they formed of 5 artists, and they did seances and would channel spirits and then create art based on it. And it's about how these artists came together to create these pieces and how Hilma is only really the one that gets credit for it, and it's following Hilma and her relationship with Anna, who is somebody she was in love with, and it also talks about her gender beliefs and how she identified as more masculine and was potentially trans. It's not clearly said in there, and I haven't done enough research, but like, you know, I don't want to, like, I feel like I'm spoiling it if I talk about like these historical facts, so maybe I won't like say too much about like really what happens in the story. It also has like a dual storyline where you are also in the present with this curator at the Guggenheim creating the first show of Hilma, I believe, in the US, full show of her work, and it's him unveiling these secrets and kind of coming to terms with things in his own life. I do think that the inclusion of his own personal life with like the romance and potential conflict and these things I just didn't care about. Like, that's not what I'm here to read the book about. I get that maybe some of it needed to be included, but I think maybe if the present day was still more historical, like it is in some ways, because it is based on this curator that did create this exhibit, and like the Guggenheim did do a show for her, but I just think part of it was unnecessary and uninteresting and just lackluster. But like, I don't think that overshadows the incredible nature of Hilma's story, and I think this was really fun to read to put kind of some of that stuff in context. So if you are looking for a book about an artist, I highly recommend this book. Next we have A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. If you've watched some of my book videos in the past, I did a vlog where I read The Invisible Life of Audie LaRue, and that was like one of my favorite books of all time. And I'm constantly searching for a book that matches that energy that is written by V.E. Schwab, because I think she's an incredible writer. This book fell short for me. I have not been saying how many stars I gave books. I gave this a 3 stars. The world was interesting but also really confusing, and I feel like it could have taken a little more time to help us understand like why this even exists. Like, I feel like some of it was not fully solid, and it felt just kind of like wispy and kind of like trailing away from me, and I couldn't fully grasp onto it, which maybe some of that was on purpose, and maybe I just need to keep reading. I do think I'll read the next book just to see what happens, but I just couldn't like fully fall into this book. I felt kind of separated from it. I think Lila is a really interesting character, and I think she could have had so much more depth within the book. I don't know. I don't know what to fully express about this book. I think it was really well written. Like, I don't think V. Schwab's a bad writer at all. I just think the story was a little lacking. The plot was really well paced in some ways, but I think it might have been too fast in some ways, and I kind of just lost track of things, and I feel like there could have been a little more explanation for things, if that makes sense. If you love this book, I'm happy for you, and this cover is really cool. I really like the cover. Next, we have Happy Place. Oh, I read this in literally a day and a half. I took this on vacation with me because I saved it because I was like, oh, this is such a perfect vacation book. I need to save this for vacation. So I did. Read it in a day and a half. I think this might be my favorite Emily Henry book. Whoa, I need to reread all of them. But the dynamic is really interesting in this book. It is about 5 or so friends that go on vacation, and the main character is separated from her partner, but she hasn't told any of her friends. Let me make sure that's not a spoiler. Right, okay, it says that in the cover, so I think it's okay. And then her friends don't know, so they invite him, and they have to pretend to be together for like the duration of the trip, and it's just about these friendships and these dynamics and how they shift. They've been friends since college, now they're 30, and all of them are kind of going down these different life paths, and they feel like they're all separating and they're all kind of grasping on. One of the characters is like really trying to keep them all together, and the other ones are like, but we need to shift and change and we're growing. And I just think it was so well written and such a great concept. Like, what I really admire about Emily Henry's romance books is they feel so rooted and grounded in reality, and they don't feel fully idealized. They feel like this could happen in real life. Like, this is, like, so much of this I could relate to. I'm not 30, but, you know. And I just really, really loved this book. The 2 love interests, like, a lot of it is also about them finding happiness on their own and pursuing their passions and all of this beautiful stuff. I just can't praise Emily Henry's writing enough. I'm really grateful that she exists as a romance author, because I think we need more realism like this, and I'm just so happy with this book. And I gave it 4 stars. I think it's more like 4.5 stars. I think I read it too fast, and I might need to read it again to like fully gauge my thoughts, because I was just zipping through because I was so excited. But yeah, please, this is so worth the hype. Please go read it. Last book on my physical copies pile, Foundry Side. I got this at Strand in New York City in a vlog on a whim. I picked it up from the shelf. I read the first few pages, I read the back, and I looked on Goodreads. Actually, I think my service wasn't working, so I couldn't go on Goodreads, but I picked it up and I was like, this looks really cool, and look at the cover. And then I left it on my shelf for a bit. I feel like I do with most fantasy books. I have to wait till like they call to me. That's like with most books in general. And so it finally called to me. I brought it with me on vacation. Oh, I loved it. It was so good. I read it in like 3 days, 3 or 4 days, and it was so good. It is about a character named Sanchia, which I think is such a great name. I believe it takes place in Italy. I could be wrong, but like a lot of the like political structure and the names just reminded me of Italy. So if anyone can confirm that, because I was trying to do some research and I couldn't figure it out. But, you know, somewhere around there, and it's like, not medieval times. You know, it's fantasy, so it's somewhere in the ether. But it's about Sanchia. She's a thief, and she's sent on a job, and she steals a really important artifact, and it's about her journey with this artifact and what it leads her life to be and what she gets into. It's so good. So there's the magic system within this book is really interesting. There's these things called scrivings, which change the form of a pre-existing thing, so like it could convince a rock that it's wood and stuff like that, and change the functions of things, and it's kind of like a magical system, and that's kind of like what carries this world, and I think that's so interesting. The writing of this book was so good, the characters were so good. Clef, my homie, like, oh, so good. If you like, this is so random, but if you like The Door Knocker and Throne of Glass, you will love this book. Inanimate objects that are witty and funny. And just like all of the characters, like there's this one character, I'm horrible at remembering names. There's this one character named Gregory Dundallo. He's like one of the heirs of this main merchant house, and it's about his struggle with justice and how he doesn't think things are being done right, and kind of like his journey with that and how he rectifies that. And I don't know, it's just incredible. I'm currently waiting for the second book to arrive. I've been desperately waiting for the second one, and I can't wait. I really loved this. I told myself this video was gonna be short, and now it's almost been 20 minutes and I'm not done. Okay, I have 2 more books. One, they're both digital books. The first is The Neighbor Favor. I've seen this in stores and I was like, oh, the concept's really cool. Black representation and romance, so great, so cool. And I like really wanted to get it, and I got it on my Kindle, and I'm disappointed, and I'm sad to say that. This was like a 2 stars for me, which is unfortunate. I think that the concept was really cool. It's about like this girl woman who lives in New York City, which I love books set in New York City. She works at a publishing company, and then she meets an author, and it's about their romance and like what happens with that. But so much of it fell short. Like the characters weren't fully entrenched. I just didn't enjoy it. I don't think it was very well written or thought out, unfortunately. And then my final book of the month is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. I saw Emmy talking about this book and how much she was enjoying it, and I was like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna see if it's available on my library app. And it was. So I got it, and it's really great. I absolutely loved it. It was so cozy and so good. It's about this witch, and she's a part of a coven that like they're very secretive and cautious, and then she posts videos on Instagram because she wants to kind of like, she's displaying her witchiness in a way that isn't like true, because she's trying to like kind of show her identity in a way that won't get her caught and in trouble, so she's showing like the very baseline stuff that isn't actually magic. And then this man reaches out to her and tells her that he needs a witch to help him at his house. She goes, and it's about her story of like, she's trepidatious with it, she doesn't know if she's gonna do it, and it's about like kind of that story and what happens, and it's just so good. There's such a huge found family element to this book, which I absolutely love. Some stuff with generational trauma and healing, and Ian is my favorite character. He reminds me of one of the characters from Only Murders in the Building. I can't remember his name. Is it Martin Short or Steve Martin? One of them. So good. I absolutely loved it. I really recommend this book. It's so cozy and so good. The first 100 pages were slow, and then it really just like got there, and I was like, yes, good. And there was romance, but it didn't feel like it fully overshadowed the book, which I really appreciate. I think it complemented the book and the main character's growth, which I think is so important. But yeah, I really liked it. And that's all of what I read in June. Such a good reading month. I just had to make a video about it, and I hope you guys found a book that maybe you want to read. Let me know what you guys are reading. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys very, very soon. Make sure to check out my Instagram, my Etsy shop, and my Twitch down below. I really appreciate it. And leave a like and comment. Let me know what you thought. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye!